Um, I'm here just to speak about my career, which is how did I graduate from Harvard and choose to become an interior designer? It actually occurred to me while studying with two professors here, Arthur Loeb, whose class focused on visual mathematics, what's today known as fractals, and John Stilgo, a visual historian, who continues teaching how to look at and characterize the outdoor built environment. So by graduation, I recognized my passion for objects, and now it's actually an established 21st century field of study called material culture. But back then, where would I begin? So to learn more, I had to find out on my own and make a living as I found my own way doing it. I became an autodidact. I sought perspective renderings of historic interiors, and these reveal a wealth of tastes, fashionable everywhere, evolving over time. Study's one thing, but I needed skin in the game, so I established an antiques gallery, which guaranteed a ready-made curriculum for studying decorative arts. My knowledge was further honed, spending time at museums, comparing, categorizing, and evaluating objects in terms of good, better, best. While exploring decorative art, my appreciation for history actually began. Period portraits held a special fascination for recognizing how material culture anchors people to history. Objects represent a swath of information about people, about values, about history. So I have the honor of being a member of Historic New England's Collections Committee, and even with their 37 homes and estates, it's still their material culture and their archives that most interests me. Today, as I work as an interior designer, recreating historic interiors is not what I do. Instead, I help clients develop living spaces that represent who they are. And when I think of representing Harvard's 386 years of history, established British interiors like these come to mind. Many of our nostalgic moments played out in rooms like this at the Faculty Club, built on the former site of William and Henry James' home. Today, as we cherish our memories here, I'd like us to consider the interior character that Harvard assembles and how these spaces embody the school's identity, past, present, and future. I look at it this way: we learn from our past, we live in the present, and we plan for the future. So the Faculty Club is a really good example of what I'm talking about. Over the course of 20 years, Karen Weller created nostalgic interiors embracing an iconic, traditional Harvard environment. She did a marvelous job, especially given the club's reticence to spend money. Thank you. So as the rooms transformed, they were eagerly celebrated by countless faculty members. Several areas featured masterfully painted murals like these. And the club continued delighting the likes of Archie Epps, Reverend Gomes, and Derek Bach. Karen impressively provided faculty members with a versatile range of distinctive dining experiences for any given moment. These 4 examples of the many private dining rooms she assembled show how each was considered with a unique chandelier and their own style of handsomely proportioned dining chairs. Today, though, these once familiar places, they no longer exist, and the comparisons between yesterday and what's happened today are astonishing and unsettling. Had the objective been modernizing dated interiors suggested here, for example, the solution could have been changing the wall finishes, updating the fabric selections, and thereby preserving the given investment. But the administration, they were so much smarter than that. They recognized the problems and knew how best to proceed. And I know that by comparison to the challenges we face today, my concerns will likely evaporate as you're listening, but I, I happen to be genuinely distressed by what I've seen happening at Harvard. So either I understand something no one else sees, or perhaps I've just lived in Cambridge for too long. So you be the judge. Today, the club is devoid of elegance. The interior's homogenized. There's no pattern, no color. Conspicuously missing is the crimson red. The classic interior architectural contrasts have been whitewashed. Historic portraits closeted, the costly and well-informed window treatments trashed, and after dismissing a devoted management team, the expensive reproduction furnishings, notably the sets of chairs and sofas, they were given away to the remaining staff. So before discussing how this happened, here's my theory on why. These two homes contrast traditional with modern architectural values, just as a metaphor for the choices that we make in our built environment. One exhibits the warmth and comfort found in traditional buildings. The other home is a fortress of concrete, steel, and glass. So here's the interesting history behind modern architecture. Mies van der Rohe, Le Corbusier, Walter Gropius, they were all born in the 1880s. And so by the time they were on average 29 years old, World War I erupted, showering massive death and destruction that had never been experienced before. In fact, Gropius survived being on the front lines for 3 years. So in other words, modern architecture was born from the minds of these pioneering architects in response to their experiences while rebuilding after the war. And their concepts continue impacting our public spaces, even here at Harvard, where Gropius was chair of the Grad School of Design for years. Just yesterday, it seems, Harvard was celebrating centuries of established material culture. The faculty was happy with their club. There you see a Canaletto and other art hanging on the walls that was very valuable. Why did the prior administration trash the faculty club? No one really knows, but listening to students' demand for familiar, comfortable surroundings has been mentioned. Bearing in mind the magnitude of Gropius's influence on campus and his belief that modernism required eliminating the past, does this explain why taking the legacy of Harvard out of Harvard appears to become an institutional policy? I'm really at a loss for words, knowing that all future Harvard experiences are being fondly remembered against backdrops with all the familiarity of a Ramada Inn. I'm gobsmacked that crushing the spirit of the place just became the canary in the coal mine for the prevailing ethos of Harvard distancing itself from its past. If the world is ever going to make progress, it needs to remember what's been learned from the past, not woke washing it. So gratefully, these interiors have been preserved, but elsewhere, as the university continues renovating culture from inside buildings, let's encourage Harvard to reclaim their proud history with at least the degree of elegance and grace that other centuries-old institutions have. Dispensing with toxic nostalgia is one thing, but tradition does last forever. As I move forward, I'm focused on creating a sense of place and purpose in communities, partially based on new sciences, studying human nature. And as a founding member of HAPPY, the Human Architecture and Planning Institute, my hope is to bring realistic, stylistic, and biologically informed humanism to interiors. Thank you so much, and if anyone wants to speak more to me about it, I'd love to. Yeah.